But let's move into the final topic before we get to Ricky, Dave, and Mize 21 through 30. Just want to throw out, if you guys want to follow us on Twitter, stay up to date, check us out, twitter.com/mostvaluablepod or at mostvaluablepod as well. You can talk to us. Hit us up in the DMs. I always got Jake talking to us, our boy Bilal Chemis, or Nicodamus used to go by. Some people come here and there, so if you want to slide in to the DMs, at mostvaluablepod, talk draft with us. But let's jump in. Ricky. Give us your 21 through 30.
So my 21 through 30, it always throws me off when we get this far down because you're like, give us your 1 through 10. I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot that we do that. But 21, the Blazer is going to take Dietrich Lawson forward from the Kansas Jayhawks. Then at number 22, Ty Lawson of the Duke Blue Devils. Trey Jones.
You said Ty Lawson.
Yep.
I said Ty Lawson.
Might as well be Ty Lawson.
14 years of...
Hey, man.
Gone by.
I'll use the same excuse you guys have. It's hot in here. But Celtics take Trey Jones from Duke. Then the Rockets at 23 going Killian Tilly from Gonzaga. Then Sean's boy Jackson Hayes, the center from Texas, going to the Warriors at 24. Then 25, the 76ers go Grant Williams, the forward from Tennessee. 26, Jonte Porter from Mizzou going to the Thunder. At 27, KZ Okpala from Stanford going to the Pacers. Then at 28, the Nets via the Nuggets go at Shamori Pons, the guard from St. John's. Jake, I got your back on that one. Then at number 29, the Spurs via the Raptors go with Bruno Fernando from Maryland. And the Bucks, they're going to end it out taking Iggy Brazdeikis, the forward from Michigan.
I don't know if it was right, but good try. Dave, 21 to 30.
Totes. At 21, I've got P.J. Washington going to the Blazers. At 22, I've got Trey Jones from Duke going to the Celtics. 23, Lugan Stewart, big faller. I don't know. I just fell out of love. He's going to the Rockets.
Dave just pushed him off the train.
Carson Edwards going to the Warriors at 24. At 25, I've got the 76ers taking Goga. Last name.
Batazde. I think that's how we found it.
Yep. Goga Batazde going to the 76ers. Building that depth. At 26, I've got the Thunder going Admiral Schofield. At 27, I've got the Pacers going to kill Alexander Walker. At 28, I've got the Nets taking Grant Williams. 29, the Spurs taking Luka, not that Luka. And at 30, I've got the Bucks taking Iggy.
At 21, I have the Blazers going P.J. Washington from Kentucky. 22, I have the Celtics going Kobe White from UNC. 23, I have the Rockets going Trey Jones from Duke. 24, I have the Warriors going Jackson Hayes out of Texas. 25, I have the 76ers going Nickeil Alexander-Walker from Virginia Tech. 26, Thunder going Carson Edwards from Purdue. 27, Pacers going Eric Paschal from Villanova. 28, Nets via the Nuggets taking Luka, not that Luka, Samanic. 29, Spurs via the Raptors going Matthias Thybulle. And then 30, Bucks going Admiral Schofield. That is not a made-up name for Matthias. We'll get to him a little bit later. We're talking Blazers, Rockets, 76ers in this round of teams. And then we'll do a couple prospects that we want to talk about just briefly at the end of it. Let's start off with the Blazers. We picked them because we said this is the team most likely to fall out of the 21 through 30 range, not only because they have the worst record right now and they're picking 21, but I think mostly it's because we didn't believe they were a playoff team before this season, and you have teams like the Lakers, the Spurs, even the Jazz down in the second tier, picking that could always rise up. So with the Blazers, do you think they need young talent to revitalize this team in any way? And if so, what position do you think they need to revitalize? I'll go to Dave first.
I believe they do. I believe they would benefit from adding young talent, especially at the 4 position, 3 or 4, honestly, either one of them. I have a fear that the Blazers are going to take another combo guard just because that's their jam. They're really all in on that for whatever reason. I think we were a little disrespectful before the start of the season. We all made mention of it. It was like, look, they were the 3 seed last year in the playoffs, and we all were like, I don't know, just seems like they're going to shit the bed for some reason. Hasn't completed yet, but we'll still see if they fall back out of that range.
I mean, let's be honest. They were coming off of that terrible playoff series.
Well, they got embarrassed.
Well. That was the last thing that we saw in our minds coming into this year.
That fully.
Well, and don't we always say that good old, what's his name? Now I'm blanking on the head coach's name. Terry Stotts. He's a great regular season head coach and always chokes in the playoffs.
Poop the bed. But I absolutely love the fit here. I think that this is the right guy for them. As long as they stay in the right range, within 4 or 5 picks probably, I think that P.J. Washington is an absolute stud for them. He's a second-year player at Kentucky. You don't see those too often. And he has definitely benefited from that second year. He is an aggressive shot blocker, great rebounder, and I think the limited minutes and like this really focusing on his own skill set to get better and be a high-impact player in those limited minutes definitely has increased his draft stock. And also, like, I could see his fit so much cleaner in the NBA right now than we could a year ago, even going up to, like, just at the end of the tournament for Kentucky. I have really a lot of concerns about him. This has been a great turn for him, and he's even improved his shot in the offseason as well, shooting a respectable number from three. Not a high-volume guy, but enough to make them be honest.
No, I agree, and that's why I have him going in the same position as well, going to the Pacers. The Blazers, you look at that team, obviously they have Nurkic, they have Zach Collins. Those guys are, well, obviously Nurkic is going to be on that team for a while. Collins is a burgeoning,
hope so.
budding star,
Yep.
You feel like.
Oh, yeah.
But if not, a guy like P.J. Washington doesn't really put too much pressure on Zach Collins, but I think he does at least take pressure off of him, which I think is good, because PJ, so far, I've liked the position and the growth that you have seen from him, but I think he also does bring a little bit of a different game than you see from Zach Collins. Zach Collins, very hyper-athletic, an extremely talented kid, hasn't really gotten that three-point shot down yet, but you look at P.J. Washington, he has that ability to stretch out, still bring athleticism, still bring some passing to his game as well, and I think he brings a nice change of pace. They're both still athletic, they can both still spell each other, but still a little bit of a different game, but I think a crossover is similar enough where there's not too much of a drop-off. Like, not one of them is going to be super great offensively and the other's super great defensively. I think there's an overlap enough, but if you need more of an outside shot coming from that 4 position, you can put P.J. Washington in over Zach Collins, and he's more of a 4 than Zach Collins is.
I will do anything to give Myers Leonard less minutes.
Yes.
And this is the right step in the right direction.
Also, probably, I keep saying that Evan Turner is the worst contract, or maybe John Wall is the worst contract in the league. Myers Leonard might be the worst contract in the league. I always end up forgetting about him just because he is pointless. But literally 4 years, $41 million. Myers Leonard should not be making $10 million a year. Like, it's just simple. Like, I think I could probably do a better job as a center that he can, and I'm 5'8". Like, I would be trashed. I know, it's hot. I don't care. Hot takes, hot room. But whatever. It's a bad contract. Ricky, you have them going with Dietrich Lawson, though, a new face.
Yeah, and I mean, I just like Dietrich Lawson. I know the first thing you're going to say is Ricky, but he's terrible from beyond the arc. Like, he is shooting in college a 17.4% from beyond the arc, and he's only putting up like 2 attempts per game, but I love everything else about him. He's a guy that's averaging double-digit rebounds. He's going after blocks and steals, gets at least one of those a game. He can score on the inside. He's an 80% clip from the foul line. He's a guy that I like a little bit better than like a P.J. Washington. However, this team, I'm going to be honest, it might be better draft. Like, it's a double-edged sword because obviously they look to be a playoff team. So obviously you want to stay in this range that we have, the bottom range for the draft, to be in the playoffs. But if they did slide a little bit into our second segment and not our third segment, there may be some threes available that they could go with. Like, if they fell and were able to get a Brandon Clark over a Dietrich Lawson, I would say that would be a little bit better. Or if, let's say, Lewis King falls and they're able to get a Lewis King at like 17 through 20, maybe 18 through 20, that might serve them better than going with a 4 just because they're in this part of the draft and there's not a ton of threes here at this part. In my mind, it's mainly like some guards and then, boom, a lot of bigs.
And that's typically what it is. I mean, when you're this low, you really don't see those skill positions like 3s, 3 and Ds. It was the same thing last year.
Yeah.
You really don't see 3 and Ds. It's usually like, smaller guards that are trying to make their way, combo guards that are a little bit older, or just young bigs that really don't have any other skills outside of being big and pretty athletic. And I think that P.J. Washington and possibly Dietrich Lawson kind of walk that fine line of maybe being those final skill positions that do go outside of, maybe Eric Paschal, Luka, or even Schofield. But Schofield, again, is more of like a 2. But let's move now to the Rockets at 23, team that is, skyrocketed, not to be corny, because of James Harden's performance all the way up to the 24 spot. looking at this team, Ricky, you have them going with a forward center. Dave and I both have them going guards. Why do you have them going with the center?
Because the guy you had him go with went right before him. It's that simple. Like the thing that is interesting, and of course this is going to be like, well, duh, Ricky. The last time we did a mock draft,
just to throw out, it was Trey Jones that went before him.
Trey Jones.
So if Trey Jones is here, you have him going Trey Jones.
Yeah, the Rockets were not good. They were 9th overall in our first mock draft. Now they've played themselves back into the playoffs. They're in this range of 23, and I feel like with the Rockets, I would go Trey Jones if he was available because Chris Paul's health. Like, he's always injured. You need somebody that you could develop and be like, yeah, we've got a competent point guard behind him. But, like, other than that, it's just take the best player available. And I didn't go Jackson Hayes because I didn't think, like, they needed a 5. Jonte Porter, if he was healthy and I had no questions about his health, probably would have been here. But I have questions about those. KZ, you could make a debate for, but I'm not super high on KZ right now. So that's why I go with a guy, yes, he hasn't played yet this season due to injury, but add a big on this team, one that you're probably going to put at the 4 at the next level in Killian Tilly.
Well, Dave, Ricky obviously brought up the idea of Chris Paul's health, and that's why you're looking to spell him. Also, not Eric Bledsoe, Brandon Knight's contract coming up. What did you want to say about Eric Bledsoe?
Eric Gordon.
Oh, Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
Well, his contract isn't coming up this year. I think he's got one more year after this. But Brandon Knight is as well. So you're obviously looking to add guard depth. So that's why I went with Trey Jones. I'm guessing that's why I went with Dort. Before I ask you about Dort, what position do you think they should be looking at to fill out depth-wise? Because I think Ricky's onto something with the 3 spot.
I think the 3 is an obvious need, but I don't know that there's anyone on my board who I'd be happy to fit for their system. Like for me, it ends up just because of best available player, I had Dort falling heavily. So at this point, it was like, oh, well, we've got Eric Gordon, who's basically our 3rd best player. You know, you can make your argument for Clint Capella. That's fine. He plays amazingly. But, like, 3rd best scorer on this team. And I think they need to have guard depth because of Chris Paul's injuries, Eric Gordon's injuries, and then Harden when he runs out of steam. So, like, for me, it's like, let's just put another guy in there who can ball handle. But I would agree with you. If there's a guy fit-wise for this Rockets team who's a 3 or a 4, who you just need great defense and someone who can shoot from the outside comfortably, I would agree. That's an absolute need for this team. And moving forward, like, they were hoping to get something out of Marquise Chris, but that man, I'm sorry, just don't play basketball. Like, I know you know what a basketball is,
Myers Leonard
but
range?
like, he knows what a basketball is, and then when he's on the court, he generally knows what direction to go.
Before we go that, what about Admiral Schofield then? Because I know he's 6'5", he's more of a guard, but he obviously is a big dude. He's a great defender. Puts his heart into everything defensively, and could shoot from the outside. Are you interested in him at all for the Rockets?
I think he definitely is worth taking a flyer, but for me, I had someone in Dort who was available, so that's why I moved him over. But yeah. Schofield has an interesting skill set and size, and like when you watch him, it's super fun. He's one of those guys who's just like, he lays it all out on the court for them. And I am weirdly loving Tennessee a whole lot more than I expected to be going into this year. But yeah, both he and what's his name, Grant Williams, awesome. They're both awesome, and I think that their success continues throughout the season means both their stocks continue to move up.
And I mean, that's another thing of why I'll go back to Tilly for a second. Of yes, he's an older player, and I know that there's a lot of like, it's a stigma against older players. Like, oh, you're 20.
Also against Gonzaga players.
I mean, yeah, and Gonzaga players as well. Thank you, Adam Morrison. But I mean, he's a guy that even last year shot 47, almost 48% from 3, shooting almost 3 a game. He can hit well above almost 60% from the field, can rebound, can score. And I look at what the Rockets need, and yes, a 3 could help them. That's what they would have gotten if they were still at 9 like they were in our first mock. But right now I'm looking at their contracts, and the 2 power forwards, Marquise Chris, yeah, he's going to be off the books next year. He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah,
and then that means you've got Isaiah Hartenstein as your only power forward.
He's actually
along with Clint Capella and Nene, who are listed at center. So it's like, that's why to me, hey, maybe go with a 4 here because you might really need that come draft time.
They're getting good contributions from Clark and Enos right now, but they definitely, wing depth is a crutch. So Sean.
If we do go to Summer League, though, I think my number one player that I want to watch would be Hardenstein because I think he's got one more year.
He's going to dominate it.
Dude, he was so fun last year.
I know.
I want to watch him. But I think that's a good point about Tilly, and maybe it does kind of screw him a little bit if they do fall that way. But hey, if they do end up like falling a little bit after Harden, but they still stay in the playoffs, they might be a team that takes a shot at Sekou if he's available. I think that'd be interesting just because he has the ability to move the ball. He has that size for a three. Obviously, he's not as polished as a guy like Kevin Hachimura or even a Keldon Johnson or an RJ Barrett, but definitely someone that would be interesting to see how they would be able to develop him because he was a guy that people thought he was the number one prospect coming in. He's obviously taken a fall, but something interesting. Why is Dort taking a fall? Anything specific or just not the flavor of the week?
Poor performance.
Okay.
Just 2 weeks straight of poor performances. I can pull it up for you.
Yeah, I know he hasn't been performing well, but I didn't know if that was the main reason or if there was anything else. Like I know you were so high on him after the article, or maybe you just kind of fell off of him because you just saw something, or if it was just the performance.
It's lack
drop.
of consistency because if you go throughout the season, I overlooked it early because it was small sample size. I was like, okay, cool. But when you go 9-22, cool. 10-18, awesome. 4 of 13, all right, shit. 6 of 17. Still not ideal. Taking a lot of shots, and I understand that's being pushed on him. 10 of 15, great game. 6 of 18, all right. 5 of 12, all right. 9 of 19, all right. 2 of 10, 3 of 13, 3 of 14, 1 of 8. That right there was like, oh, we have no consistency in our scoring.
Yeah.
Okay. Does he get to the line? Yeah, he absolutely gets to the line still. He still knows how to use his body. That's why I probably bounced too far down, and he'll rebound back to that mid-range again. But it's him forcing up shots and trying to draw contact constantly. James Harden-esque.
That's what I was going to say. Could you imagine
me.
those two playing next to each other? It'd be the most boring game of basketball I've ever seen in my life.
I don't care because it'd be great. He plays great aggressive defense on people. He uses his size well. It's the scoring that bugs me, and it's the lack of consistency. So I like to see him really center himself in, take some smarter shots, and honestly, they just need to. I feel like they put the scoring all on him, and I get it. Arizona State, you are Dort's team at this point, but he needs contributions elsewhere so he doesn't get forced into all these bad shot attempts.
For sure. Let's move now to the 76ers, both for Jake, but also this is a team that is, big three heavy. Obviously, there was the news about Jimmy Butler yelling at Brett Brown today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Not too heavily, though.
Everybody yells at everybody.
But one thing that they are lacking is depth. So how are you guys trying to look to fill that depth? What do you see? At least what I see is TJ McConnell is a good NBA player. He definitely deserves a spot. But when he's your first guard coming off the bench, that becomes worrisome. If he's your 12th guy, he's your 11th guy, he's your 9th guy, I think that's a good spot for him. He's a guy that can contribute very well. I don't think he hurts the team. I don't think he propels the team to a playoff spot, but I think he does contribute very well to a team. But you need to look at that guard spot, and Markelle isn't locked up. There isn't solid contributors there. Nicky Alexander-Walker obviously is the cousin of Shai Gilgeous. I see a ton of the similarity in their games. Big guard. It would give teams a ton of problems if they're trotting out him, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, and even throw in forgetting half the team right now because it's so damn hot in here.
It's cool.
But those 4 players with their wingspan, their athleticism, will be tough to score on. So I think that adding Nicky Alexander-Walker, another ball handler, but he can also show, so far he's been able to show his scoring ability as well.
It's improved, yeah.
So I think Nicky Alexander-Walker would add that depth that you need for the 76ers, add some scoring depth off the bench, but then also could step into the starting lineup and help this team trying to just fill out when they need it. Because, again, so far they're super top heavy. They need to fill out that depth. They'll do it in free agency, hopefully. They'll do it through trades. But if you're going to do it through the draft, I think Nicky Alexander-Walker also having some experience, I think would definitely benefit coming out of that team. The only player that I would look at as well to help you out would be Carson Edwards because that kid can score.
You don't like Shamet? I think Shamet's performing pretty well.
But someone to run that second unit outside of TJ.
Okay.
So that's my thing.
You need a primary ball handler. Okay.
Yeah, and Shamet isn't consistent.
No.
He's not a guy that's going to be doing every single night. Same with Furkan. I think that you need more of a consistent player. And Nicky Alexander-Walker, he's not he's not running. He's not going to be putting up 30 a night back-to-back games, but he is consistently running at a 16 to a 25 to an 11 to a 16 to a 25 to 11. He's keeping a very consistent pace, and I do like that. I think you do need some consistency in that backcourt for the 76ers.
If only the 76ers, had a player that they might have drafted in the top 3 that could run a second unit.
Yeah,
that
Ben
could
Simmons
be
really needs to learn
healthy
how to do that.
out there. I mean, for me, this team, there's so much shakeup for next year because, like, JJ Redick, is he going to be back? Is he going to take a lesser contract to come back? I am leaning towards no. So with me next year, Ben at the 1, move Jimmy to the 2, or even have is Zaire when he comes back? Is he going to play his way into the starting lineup? Then it's like move Jimmy to the 2, Wilson Chandler.
Winston, we got another
Winston Chandler.
To me, the 4 is the weakest spot because the only true 4 you have on this team is Mike Muscala.
Ben
That's it.
Simmons.
That's the only true one. No, Ben Simmons is a point guard to me, Dave. I know.
Isn't Moose on a one-year deal too?
He could be. I think he's under contract next year. No, you're right. He's unrestricted free agent.
They plan their team around free agency.
It's like
Amir
for me,
Johnson too's a 4.
That's why I mentioned. I go ahead and mention hey, Grant Williams is go and get the best 4 that I have on the board. Might have been Jonte Porter if he was healthy, but no, it's Grant Williams and what he can do for this team just to maybe soak up some minutes at the 4 because you don't need him to be a high scoring option because you got Ben, Jimmy, and Joe.
I think that you're not too far off. I think Grant, I don't know if he's a 3 or 4 yet. Honestly,
either or because
somewhere between
Wilson
6'5"
Chandler's
and
playing
6'8",
some of the 4
know.
right now and can play the 3. So it's like
you just a wing. His outside shooting consistency we'll have to see, but obviously he's a do it all kind of guy. So I like that fit on that team. I think he would definitely help them. Jonte available. I'm surprised that you didn't go Jonte there. I think that he kind of would help space that offense right back out to where it needs to be. They're definitely missing that from moving Dario out of town. And
I could have easily went KZ as well.
I'd say KZ as well. It's just your rankings. I respect that. For me, I want center depth because every time Joe is off the floor, they're getting wrecked. Joe is making a case, like a quiet case, unless you're in Philadelphia, for defensive player of the year and then probably top 10 voting for MVP. What he's putting together is impressive. And I think that if you go out and get Goga, a guy who young, still developing, but has really good upside and plays such a physical game for his size, I like him, and I think he would work perfectly as a backup center for them. And I am just going for depth because I think they're going to fill in that starting lineup with free agency. I think they're just looking. Draft is all about that depth. Get that second unit. Get me somebody who can contribute. I look to see Goga being able to do that sooner rather than later.
He's an interesting prospect just because, and this is no slight to him, but I'm pretty sure the last center to come out of Georgia, his country, was good old Papagiannis. I think it was Georgios. I think Georgios was Greek, but I think he was from Georgia though. I'm not entirely sure. Could be making it up, just for a joke.
Somebody spot check that. We'll check it.
But I think with the Sixers, they need just depth, and wherever you can find it. I think going international would be tricky, and going with a player who doesn't know his position again could be tricky. I think you need to go with somebody who can contribute right away for that team because they're going to be a playoff team. They're looking for depth. They're looking for immediate impacts. If they had Zaire, he would be forced into that spot
we just
right
don't
away.
know yet.
When Fultz is able to play, they're going to force him in right away. They need depth on that bench. They need to try people out, and I think someone who can step in right away will be big. That's why Grant Williams is interesting. Goga is just one guy. It's the potential might be there, and it's a good pick for his ceiling. But again, I think stepping in right away was going to be huge for.
I mean, they can, like I said, they can even float him international for another year and wait and see it. I really think that this team is built around the free agency upcoming year. That's their plan. Is they made it very clear their contract situation is what it is, so they can afford everything they need to. So, draft is just bonus, and if they float a player internationally, I'm fine with that. They've done that every year in the past.
And you said you thought Papagiannis was born in Georgia? Is that what you were saying?
I don't know. I think
he was born in Greece. I looked it up.
I know he was born in Greece, but I think he had I don't want to.
Yeah, totally.
All the past and the 2 leagues he did play in were both the Greek league.
All right. I was just wrong. My bad.
Georgian basketball.
We're going to go to you first, Ricky, for a player that you want to talk about because we're talking about the 76ers. We're talking about Jake, his favorite college team, or his dad's favorite college team is St. John's. So give us the Shamori Pons update.
This is a guy that Shamori Pons in my first mock draft I was not given love to. But I looked at it and I looked at what he's able to do. He's one of those that falls in the KZ Okpala thing that I mentioned earlier. If he can play St. John's into the tournament or into on the bubble, I will even say, like if ESPN, CBS, if they're talking about St. John's late in the year of possibly being a tournament team, then that's going to be good for him because that is going to get the spotlight on him. I feel like we talked about the cliff, like how it's Ja and then everybody else. He could be one that later on that a team like the Nets, who might need some point guard help to go along with D'Lo, could go, hey, we're going to go with Pons. He's going to be the guy to run our second unit off the bench when D'Angelo Russell is basically on the bench and not on the floor because that's how it works.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
And, well, you got Dinwiddie. He got paid, but I mean,
But he'll be running the second unit, bro.
I mean, there's
unless they get rid of D'Lo.
Unless D'Lo gets rid of, but hey, anything can happen.
Also,
you get another young guard.
Yeah. I mean, worst case scenario.
Who's your player?
Fair. I'm going Luka, not that Luka. He's a Euro prospect. That's sort of my game around here. I feel like I have to continually bring
You're the Euro guy? Is that it?
Have I not been?
No, I'm just saying, like, you're the Euro guy.
Outside
of the podcast.
of Luka, who?
Dave only likes Lucas. That's it.
You also
He's
like
a Luka guy.
Rodions, but I think I was the first person to put him in a mock draft.
We'll have to spot check that one, but yeah, I was a pretty big fan of Rodions. I'll have to go back years past, but I feel like I bring the Euro hype. Basically, he's a stretch four, face up four. He looks to have a solid offensive game. Defensively, room to grow, but it's just, for me, I like the fit. I like putting him there on that Spurs team. You're looking for someone who can kind of grab the reins. We'll see what happens with the contract. We got one more year of, and I already forgot his name. He's a freaking all-star, LaMarcus Aldridge. You got one more year of LaMarcus Aldridge, so that way you can kind of figure out, like, where's Luka's timeline at the four for the Spurs team? Is he going to be, a backup for a couple more years, and you want to continue? Maybe the DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge experiment goes great when you add in a true point guard and you get back Lonnie Walker. He actually, first game of the year was last night, I think. So we'll have to see. I think they're a team that would be happy to take another international player because that's just the Spurs, but also a face at four if it's exactly what they need moving forward. Because David Bertrand's, well, a good shooter from the outside, and they've developed the hell out of him. I just don't know that he's the guy who can fill those shoes from LaMarcus. So I look to Luka being a high upside, longer term project kind of guy. But I also think he can contribute at an early level.
For sure, but also one thing, too, to help that argument, Gasol has been helping him stretch the floor a little bit, too.
Yeah.
And he's most likely been gone this year. They might move LaMarcus back to the 5, and then that opens up a spot at the 4. I got two guys. I'm pulling a Ricky Widmer. I got Kobe White from UNC, and I got Matthias Thybulle from Washington. Love both their games. I'll talk about Kobe White first. Half the reason why he's on there is because of his hair. Dude is rocking the best fro in college basketball right now. It is Jared Allen level-esque. He's not 7 feet tall. He is 6'5", but the dude you could spot him right away with his hair. It is baller as fuck.
Yep.
Him rocking this afro. It's killer. The moment he shaves it, he's falling out of my
So number one
draft.
reason, fro. Number two reason, Kobe. What's
it's better than a Kobe fro.
No, I'm just saying his name is Kobe. The number one reason to take him is because of his fro.
It's
the number two
C-O-B-Y.
doesn't matter. It's still Kobe. What's the number three reason?
Number three, he's good at basketball.
Oh, he's good.
That's a pretty good one, right?
Wow, that's you can't argue with those three results.
Yeah, he's pretty good at. He's a smart pick and roll player.
Yeah.
I like him not only passing the ball, but he's got a good mid range shot as well, and he's got a good floater game. So just immediately pick and roll player. I love that. That's my favorite game to watch and part of the game to watch. And you look at the Celtics, if they're getting rid of Scary Terry, they need a scorer, and I think he has shown a little bit of a budding scoring game. He's not a massive passer. He's not a guy that's dropping like 8 assists a game. He has had one game where he's had 8 assists, but he's not massively dishing out the ball for UNC. He does like to shoot, typically averaging around 10 shots a game, and around like 4 assists a game. So I do like his ability to score. He does get to the line fairly often as well. So I think adding a second scorer, at least a scorer off the bench for the Celtics could be something they're interested in, and especially looking at the picks they've made so far. Bol, Demboya, Naz Reid, they needed to get a guard in there at some point, and I think Kobe White can be a guy that does add that. And then finally, the last pick, it's the Spurs going with another defensive guard. I love this kid. I liked him when he was playing with Markelle Fultz. I liked him when he was playing with...
the Markelle Fultz team where he won, 6 games?
Yeah, but then I also liked him when they were ranked because he was also on the team with good old DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
And good old guy who we just trashed.
I've trashed a lot of players tonight. It's 95 degrees. We've been here for 5 hours.
This guy in the Rockets, bad at basketball, really bad at basketball. Marquise Chris. He was on that team with Marquise Chris. Matthias Thybulle, he's been playing with the Huskies since 2015, 2016. I've been watching him a ton. He has the highest steal rate, I think, in the in college basketball, highest block rate. He is averaging 2 blocks a game, 3 steals a game as a 6'5" guard forward. The guy can play defense, and he's got a pretty decent shot from 3. It's not consistently great. Like, he shot 36% in his freshman year, then sophomore year shot 40%, then 36% his junior year. Then he's shooting 31% from 3 his senior year, but he's also improved his free throw shooting 71%, 84%, 71%, 90%, and on his career he's shooting 76%. So I think the shot is there. It's not super consistent as shown through the bouncing times throughout the year, but I think he can be a pretty good guard off the bench. I don't think he'll ever be a starter. But I've seen comparisons to Danny Green at the top end and then like Wesley Iwundu in the bottom end. I think that he could be a pretty decent 3-and-D player, a guy that, on an NBA championship team would be a fan favorite just because he does everything for your team, plays hard, really like Matthias Thybulle. Hopefully I'm saying that name right, but I think it is Matthias Thybulle, Matisse, and then Thybulle, Thybulle, and that's spelling with Sean.
Mm-hmm.
So, any final thoughts?
I think it'd be intriguing to see if a guy who has that much seasoning in college goes in the first round. Usually we don't see that too often, but
What?
4-year player in college going at the top or going in the first round. I know obviously there's
Buddy
been
Hield?
Yeah, I'm saying there've been cases, but it's not often.
I'm just wondering, like, the last guy to do it
Probably is
to
Buddy.
come out. Maybe was it Buddy Hield? All right, I'll just look through.
There's
the last
probably
drafts.
like a ton. I'm just way off. I just feel like
Well, it is like 29, and I think that most likely he's going to end up being a second-round player. But I just do like him, and I just wanted to talk about him. So I threw him
that's
in
totally
there.
fair.
So
Totally fair.
Ricky, final thoughts?
My final thoughts is I was looking at St. John's schedule. Not only do they play Duke this season, which will be fun to see what Pons does against them. If we really wanted to see Shamori Pons, just saying, they're coming to Duke. Or not Duke. They're coming to DePaul on March 3rd. So we can go see some St. John's versus DePaul if we want to. Right before the conference tourneys start at the end of conference play.
Grayson Allen was a senior. Chandler Hutchison was a senior.
So tons. I'm just way off.
Javon Carter was a senior, but he was second round. And thank you for that notice about Shamori Pons. Be interesting to see him play, but also I don't know if I want to see some St. John's basketball. No offense to St. John and the Rough Riders, the Red Raiders, the Red Storm. It was close. Anyways, that's going to do it for the Fast Break podcast. If you haven't already, please rate us 5 stars. I don't know why, though. It's been a long, long time. A very long podcast.
Long time
a
ago.
lot of arguments. A lot of circles that we ran
Earlier
through.
in the night.
And if you are here listening to me talk,
Gold star.
first person to hit me up on Most Valuable Pod on Twitter who listened to the end of this, I'll Venmo you $1. I'll Venmo you $1.
What do you got put in there so they have to send you a secret code? What's the secret code word? So you got to know that they actually listen all the way through.
Spelling with Sean.
No.
No.
You have to spell the word Poughkeepsie right.
Ooh.
Poughkeepsie. First try. You get one try.
Just Google it.
I couldn't do it on the fly, I'll be honest.
What if you Google the wrong thing? No. Okay, fine.
They can just Google it and send it to you.
You have to text me. You have to DM me.
Slide into them DMs.
Slide into
DMs.
them DMs.
Yep.
Of the right spelling of where that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of a way of the spelling where. You have to spell it right.
Okay.
No, there. We'll do there. There's much easier. All right?
There's more of them.
Exactly. So there. You have to slide into the DMs at Most Valuable Podcast with the right spelling of there that I am thinking of. All right?
Okay.
That's the deal. And
I
you
look
get
forward to this.
You got $1 on Venmo.
Dave, I look forward.
Anyways, that's going to do it for something. Fast Break Podcast. Thank you for listening. If you're, again, listening so far, give us 5 stars on iTunes. It's been a very long time. I am overheating and probably going to die. I'm going to go get some water. For Dave Oster, that's Ricky Widmer. I'm Sean Anderson. See you next time.